Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday's edition of Weekend Waypoints, production of SEC Extra and D1Baseball.com. Joe Healy here to take you through all of Saturday's results, all 5 SEC Super Regional games, and to take a peek forward at Sunday's games. We're going to punch one more ticket to Omaha, guaranteed. The Tennessee-Evansville game, possibility of punching 4 more. We will see how that obviously plays out, but should be a fun day of baseball nonetheless. Before we get into anything else, I have to let you know that this episode and every Sunday episode of Weekend Waypoints is brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Ford Stokes and Sam Davis, my guys over there. Our call to action, as always, visit activewealth.com. Click schedule a consultation to get a free 401k review, which is a $1,500 value at no cost to you. If you live in the Atlanta metro or Huntsville, Alabama area, Ford and Sam also have TV shows there or on the radio there. You can catch them in various media forms on the weekends there if you're looking to supplement their services otherwise. All right. As I once again clear my throat because these are the first words I have spoken out loud today. Busy day, obviously, yesterday on the diamond. Some good and some bad from an SEC perspective. We will jump into all of it. I will also, if Jeremy McCollum is watching, we will also get to his Arkansas question, which was a good one at the end of yesterday's show, right as we were closing, and I promised him we'd circle back, so we will circle back on that at the end, but we'll talk about the Super Regionals first. We have to start with Evansville 10, Tennessee 8. I was shocked. I'm not going to lie. Like, I knew Evansville's a good team, right? I mean, and the coaches will always say, oh, any team that gets to this point is a good team, so you have to take them seriously. And I agree. But also, because of some of the work I do during the season with the Missouri Valley Conference, like, I'm pretty familiar with Evansville, and I knew that team's good. I knew they had a chance to make some noise in Greenville. I didn't realize they were going to win the dang thing. But I thought, that's not a comfortable 4 seed for anybody. But to go to Knoxville and to win yesterday, and not only win, but come back from 4-0 down early. I have to admit it, 4-0. I just thought, well, okay, this is a wrap. I just thought it was going to be one of those deals where, Evansville put up a good fight Friday, and that was cool. But then they come out Saturday, and they're just totally outclassed. And and I kind of, my apologies, goodness gracious. And I just thought, okay, cool, but Saturday they're going to get run off the field, and that's that. Nope. They scrapped. And the thing about it is they kept scrapping. It wasn't just like they had one big push, big haymaker to tie the game at 4, and then Tennessee wins it 12-4. Like, no, they just kept swinging, both literally and figuratively, and they win at 10-8. Now, they had to bring back some arms from the first day. They're thin on the mound to begin with. So I don't know what they have left on the mound, to be honest. I don't like their chances today, but I didn't like their chances yesterday. And honestly, if you tell me, I'm less confident in what would happen in a game 3 than I was yesterday. And yesterday, Tennessee lost. So I don't know who's to say Evansville can't win again. And one big variable here is how tight is Tennessee? Like how nervous are they, and how tense is the crowd? Because the crowd can sense it. If Tennessee comes out and puts up an 8 spot in the first or something, okay, things will loosen up. But if it's a close game into the 5th, the 6th, things can get tense and tight in that stadium. We see it all the time when underdogs are making a run in regionals or supers in a raucous environment. So we'll have to see. It's Xander Sechrist on the mound, which I think is a good news, bad news thing for Tennessee. The good news, of course, is that he's a veteran. He's one of the guys they would want on the mound in that spot. He's not going to go out there and panic. But the bad news about it is that stuff-wise, it's pretty similar to what Evansville sees in the Missouri Valley every weekend. Now, he has more polish than the Missouri Valley pitchers. He's better than the Missouri Valley pitchers. But in terms of stuff, it's not going to be anything that makes Evansville uncomfortable. Now, if Sechrist executes, Tennessee's probably fine because he gets SEC batters out, right? No disrespect to Evansville, because they've proven they've got some bats. Like, at this point, if you're not willing to concede that, you're just being willfully ignorant and stubborn. So they can hit Sechrist. It's just a matter of if they do, And Seacrest is good enough and polished enough and crafty enough to navigate that lineup if he's on his game. It just is a matter of if he is or not, right? And for Evansville, I think everything is on the table. Deverman getting some run, them bringing Shane Harris back for the third day in a row, Jacob Meyer again, basically anything except, even Donovan Schultz, the starter yesterday. Like, obviously, it didn't go great for him, but I just truly think anything's on the table for Evansville today, given where their pitching is at. All right, moving on. NC State 18, Georgia 1. Not surprised NC State won this game. Am surprised they just ran away with it. Colton Smith was, I don't know if NC State just had a really good approach on Colton Smith. I don't know. And full disclosure, I did not see that early in that game because that was when I was getting to Clemson and was like getting set up in the press box and all that stuff. So I didn't have eyes on it. So I don't know if Colton Smith was just not good, or if NC State had a great approach, or if maybe they think Colton Smith was tipping something. I don't know. But whatever it was, they were all over Colton Smith and never looked back. Now, from a Georgia standpoint, the good news, if you're looking for a silver lining, is that you fell behind so much so early that you kind of just let Chandler Marsh go out there and throw bulk innings. He threw 4 innings. That saved you a little bit. And then you knew you didn't have to go to Zeldin or Maracna or anybody like that, and you could save them up for the next 2 days. So if Leighton Finley throws the ball well today and you're in a close game, you have Maracna, you have Zeldin, you can play that game pretty much straight up. So that's the good news there. But of course, the bad news now is your back's against the wall. You got to win 2 to finish this off and get to Omaha. So that's going to be a tough assignment. Just the reality of the situation. I suspect Georgia will play better. It's just a matter of if they can get the win there. All right, Florida 10, Clemson 7. The game I was at. Brandon Neely was a story for me. I mean, he comes in when he does in the 6th inning, and the game was over at that point. We didn't know it, but the game was over. He gets out of a jam there and then just cruises the last 3 innings. And he's just been such a different pitcher as a reliever down the stretch. He talked yesterday in the postgame about how being a starter helped him get comfortable going back into the bullpen with the idea that he would be throwing 3, 4, 5 innings. We saw it last weekend with 5 1/3 against Oklahoma State. He says that's something he's more comfortable doing because of starting. So maybe some good did come of it, but man, this team and Brandon Neely specifically feels about 1,000,000 miles away from, for Neely, the guy who, had a start early this year where he gave up 8 runs. And from a team standpoint, it feels 1,000,000 miles away from losing that game against Georgia to open the final series of the regular season. And they're 11-17 in the SEC. And at a point where you kind of got to win the next 2 games to feel good about being an at-large team. And they did it. And that's ultimately what gets them in. Now look at them, 1 win away from Omaha here. Tough assignment today. Aiden Canuck on the mound for Clemson. He's their best arm. He's a tough matchup, not only because he's very talented, but because it's a different look. It's a firm fastball, but it's also lots of changeups, right on right changeups, not just changeups to lefties. So, that's a particular challenge. So we'll see how they handle that. We'll also see how Canuck handles the moment. I mean, he's handled every other big moment fine for Clemson, but a super regional is something different. So we'll see how a young pitcher goes out and handles that. Caglione on the mound for Florida. Obviously a key in any of his starts is how is he able to settle into the game? Because so often in the starts where he's not particularly good from the very start, he's, spraying the fastball and the slider's not there. Can't get to the changeup, against right-handers, and then it goes downhill. So we'll see if he can settle in and give Florida some length. That's obviously going to be huge. Texas A&M 10, Oregon 6. A little bit of back and forth game early. Oregon was clearly game. Offensively, they did some good things. They knocked Ryan Prager out of the game early. A mixed bag here for A&M. The biggest individual piece of news is Braden Montgomery's done for the year. Broken ankle. Tough break. He got sent home and thrown out by a mile, basically, and adding injury to insult, breaks his ankle on the play. Jim Schlossnagle had an impassioned defense of Nolan Cain on the sending Montgomery home. And I'm with him generally in terms of like, look, that, whether or not it was a bad send, like set that aside, like players can get hurt on any given play. So sure, was it an unwise send? Maybe, but like, it's a bridge too far to look at Nolan Cain and say, look what you did. Like it's a bridge too far there. I understand the frustration though. Certainly you lose, one of your big bats in the lineup. I think A&M's offense, of course, will be fine without him, but it is one piece you lose in the mix there. So tough break there, but they do win the game. Chris Cortez was awesome in relief. Wouldn't be surprised if A&M wins another game this weekend, goes to Omaha. Wouldn't be surprised if Chris Cortez is a guy who is starting a game for A&M. That's something they've toyed with at times, and it's never totally worked for Cortez. He's been more comfortable in the bullpen, but we'll see. Certainly the stuff lends itself to, if he could be a starter, he could really be a dominant guy for them. Kentucky 10, Oregon State nothing. This was the game that, I shouldn't say that because NC State 18, Georgia 1 was pretty surprising. But I'll just say I was surprised by how well, not that they won the game, but how well Kentucky handled Aiden May. Aiden May is really good. The numbers bear that out. The stuff is really good, but they just handled him. They seemed to have good approaches. They knew what they wanted to do. And then the minute Oregon State started to kind of buckle under some of that pressure late in the game, Kentucky pounced. They had, a big inning where it was you can go back, the Kentucky official baseball Twitter account tweeted it out, just that, the play-by-play of that inning. And it was, very Kentucky. It was like, walk, stolen base, bunt, single, just like everything that could happen in an inning happened in that inning. And it was very Kentucky. So a 10-0 win there. Trey Pooser was great. 7 shutout. It minimizes the bullpen. So Kentucky's very fresh going to today's game. 1 hit over 7 innings for Pooser. Just an incredible performance. Can't say enough about how good he's been as an accidental Friday guy. It's not like they went into the season thinking this is our Friday guy. He was there because Travis Smith came out of the rotation, and they were like, well, somebody has to start on Friday, and they didn't want to move everybody up, so they just put Pooster there, and he stuck as the Friday guy. So cool story there with him and his success. Kentucky 1 win away from its first College World Series appearance. Same kind of rules apply with Tennessee, but just different. How tight does Kentucky get as the reality of that starts to hit them? This team is about as loose as it gets. So I don't anticipate that, but it's a new experience for all of them, right? And so you never know how they're going to deal with that. That'll be interesting if they're in a position to win today or tomorrow if it comes to that. All right, let's flip over to some comments real quick. Lots of stuff waiting here. Cajun-omics on YouTube says, I assume this is pre-recorded. It is not Cajun-omics. We are live as could be. It is currently 10:19 Eastern as I'm saying these words. You asked about Montgomery's injury in your next comment here. Simple, broken ankle, done for the year. He's going to go into the draft. He has played his last game. He's played his last game as an Aggie. So tough break there for him and for Texas A&M. You hate to see that. I think even fans of rival teams can understand, that sucks. But yeah, it's pretty simple there. Just broken ankle. He's done. Carl Dunn says good morning. And then also says, go Tigers still. Cam Johnson put his name in the portal yesterday. Lots of potential, so we see if Coach Johnson will get to keep him. Yeah, that was one of the big portal names from yesterday. Cam Johnson, the highly regarded freshman from this season, who just never, a combination of when he got his opportunities, he didn't take them, and then it felt like he would go a long time until he got his next opportunity. Just a combination of factors that made it to where he didn't have the freshman season that anybody had thought he would have or wanted him to have. We'll see if he comes back, if he goes somewhere else, but certainly a high ceiling arm, Whoever ends up with him next year is going to have a bit of a sports car on their hands, and it's just a matter of being able to drive it, if you will, to take that metaphor home. Jason Armstrong says, I've always questioned if the Tennessee staff is championship caliber. Once you get past Causey, it's very just okay. I expect them to win today, but Omaha could be a challenge. Yeah, I think it's fair. Let me just say that first, Jason. I think it's fair, but I've just always been careful about critiques of coaching staffs because I think it's hard unless you're in the locker room, unless you're in the dugout, to get a feel for effectiveness in coaching, right? When teams win, we think, oh, this is a good coach. If teams lose, we think, oh, this guy sucks. And then there are exceptions, of course, right? There are successful coaches who get pushed out because it's a chaotic situation or there are off-field issues or whatever. And there are, less successful coaches who keep coming back, and we kind of like look at it with, like what? But that's because we don't know what's going on internally, and there's something that is clicking. So I think it's a fair, especially if they lose today, woof, because it would be a situation where the two times that Tennessee has been a prohibitive favorite, 2022 and this year, if they lose today, which again, I'm not betting on either, Jason, but you've got a situation where the two times they were looked at as a juggernaut, they fell on their face in super regionals. And the two times that they had modest expectations, 2021, where they kind of snuck up on people as like a national title contender. And then last year when they were a 2 seed, everyone saw the talent, but they were a 2 seed, and they had to go on the road. Those two teams made it to Omaha. So yeah, it's almost like they, Tennessee's best when they're able to use the edge they play with for something, which is, we're nobody believes in us. We're, all that stuff. So it's an interesting thought exercise, Jason, but I do think I think they've shown that they're vulnerable enough that Omaha will be a challenge. I'm with you. And the pitching can be a little bit bland beyond Causey and then they like Beam, but even, Beam's ERA was over 4 this year. And I mean, everybody's ERA was over 4. I get it. But, he didn't take necessarily in the next step in terms of the statistics to be the unquestioned ace of that staff. So it is interesting. I appreciate that comment. John Bro says, hi, Joe, enjoy your show. Go Tigers. Fun fact. I have bros in my family, Breaux, down the line. I have some bros in my family. It's a fun fact about Joe. Let's see here. Joshua Catlett on YouTube. If Evansville wins today, who'd be your favorite to win that half of the bracket? Let me look at it so I make sure I have it correctly. So we've got the winner of that, which in this case, we're presuming Evansville in this scenario, Florida State, Virginia, UNC. It'd be UNC or Florida State. Virginia's pitching, I'm not sold on. They're playing well right now on the mound, but I'm not sold on. I'd probably go Carolina. I think it's a good mix of physical offense, athletic offense. They play good defense. They've got some starting pitching. Jason DeCaro was awesome yesterday against West Virginia. That guy's going to be he's a freshman. He's already very good. He's going to be a star. And they've got a really deep bullpen. And I like that mix. So I'd go Carolina, I think, if that comes to pass. Nicholas Doherty says, morning, Joe. How is Florida doing this? Where was this team all season, and what is different from this team now? It's a good question. I think one of the things is they put Neely back where he should be. I mean, I think that's a big part of it. I think that's one. Two is Liam Peterson is a different pitcher. Now, it didn't go great for him yesterday. It was rough. It was rough yesterday. However, largely he has been excellent the last month, maybe 6 weeks. I'd have to go back and look, see exactly how long it's been. But Liam Peterson's been a different guy. Caglione got really hot again. That's certainly a factor as well. And he's gotten some help. I mean, they had the injuries to Ty Evans and then Hayden Yost, but Ashton Wilson in the regional was a big part of why they're here. Like, Ashton Wilson came out of nowhere, basically. He was pushed into duty, and everyone thought, whoa, that's going to be myself included, like, well, that's going to be a a hole in the lineup. Well, no, he's actually been really good, and now he's hitting behind Cags. He's hitting third. And why the heck not? Like, he's swinging a hot bat. So it's been a lot of different things, and one of which is just that this team is really talented, and there was always going to be a chance they just put it together. And so I think that's a factor as well. So a lot of little things. But Neely, I might say Neely's the biggest one. Neely in the bullpen is just such a game changer. And if he pitches the way he has in the regionals and super regionals, just nobody hits him. It's period. Justin Lucas on YouTube. SEC ACC challenge in Omaha is becoming more likely. Evansville may have the best chance to play spoiler. Yeah, I guess that's right. I mean, because on the other side, yeah, I guess Oregon State is also maybe in position. I don't have a lot of confidence in Oregon. Yeah, so you're right. It is. I would have bet against it just because it's like that seemed statistically unlikely, but yeah, that does look more likely. Cagenomics asking about I also wonder how the injury affects his draft stock. Talking about Montgomery, I would think because it's just a bone break. Typically, soft tissue injuries or ligament injuries tend to be those that affect draft stocks. But the fact that it's just a broken ankle, I mean, that's a big deal, obviously. But that's just a matter of, he's going to be in a cast, and they're going to, I don't know if he's going to have to get it reset or what have you. But that's pretty straightforward. I mean, it might be a decent rehab. But yeah, I can't imagine it affecting his stock really any, just because it'd be different if it was, hey, he's got a knee reconstruction, right? Because he blew out his knee, or he's got a thoracic outlet shoulder thing from throwing in the outfield, something like that. That would be more worrisome. But with a bone break, I think you feel pretty good about him being drafted about where he would have been. William Cantrell on YouTube. How do you feel about Tennessee today? 5-1 in rubber matches this season, but supers are obviously different. Agreed. I feel good about them. I just think they're in so much better shape on the mound, and they've had to run through their guys, right? I mean, they've played all their cards on the mound, but they can circle back on some guys that Evansville just doesn't have. So I feel good about, and by the way, has a guy in Xander Sechrist that Evansville doesn't have waiting in the wings. I feel good about them, but man, I feel less good about them than I did yesterday. I'll put it that way, because game threes just add a different element. What Tennessee needs more than anything is to put up a big number early and not 2. They need a 6 or something like that to just kind of take charge in that game. Because I think once that happens, I think some of the air, in a good way, will get let out of the balloon. Some of the pressure will be released, like when you press the pressure valve, if you have an Instant Pot, when you press that button on the back and the steam shoots up, like that will happen if they can put a big number up early. But the longer it goes with Evansville hanging around, the more there's a possibility things get tight. And that's where Tennessee could get in a little bit of trouble. But don't discount the fact that Evansville is also going to get tight. They are humans also. And it's easy to say, well, you're playing with house money. Well, that was true in game 1 and then yesterday where their backs were against the wall. But now there's real stakes. Like if they win this game, they go to Omaha. So Evansville will get tight too if it's a close game. So don't discount that. Jason, when we were talking about Tennessee, said I meant the pitching staff. I mean, yeah, that's where they're vulnerable. Jason, certainly it's not the lineup. They've played a lot of cards this weekend. But I'm with you. Nate Snead gets hit sometimes. His stuff plays down a little bit. He doesn't rack up the strikeouts like you would think. I mean, Causey obviously is great. You mentioned that, but Kirby Connell's probably been put in a role that, I mean, he's been pretty good this year, but has been put in a role that is not necessarily right for him. Like he's having to throw more than I think they would like him to throw. Aaron Combs has been really good. He's probably actually the guy right now that I feel best about, because he can go in there and dominate a game kind of similar to the way Causey can. Snead seems like sometimes he struggles to control a game when he's in there as good as his stuff is. So yeah, I'm with you generally, Jason. Like it does feel like that's where they can get got, especially if in a game 1 if they get to Omaha, game 1 where if the Stamos Causey thing doesn't work and they lose a game, even if they lose the game 3-2, right? then yeah, what do you do there, right? Because you've got Beam coming back, but again, Beam's a guy who's going to give up 3 or 4 runs every 9 innings, and if he comes out in the 6th, then he's given up 3, and you're probably in a close game at that point. So I'm with you. That is where they're a little bit vulnerable. All right, so real quick, let's talk about Arkansas, because Jeremy McCollum, who's a regular listener here, asked yesterday at the end of the show, and I said I'd get to it today. He kind of asked about basically just like what's next for Arkansas. Do you anticipate them bouncing back? My short answer is yes, because they're Arkansas, right? Right now, they're a very consistent regular season team, so I suspect they'll be back. But there is going to have to be an evaluation of what they're doing offensively. What they're doing with their lineup, because right now they're not really producing veteran homegrown stars. Now, Peyton Stovall checks that box, but I think you could even critique Peyton Stovall in that, it took him till now to be the guy they thought he would be from the start. And okay, it takes some guys more time than others, but he was a supernova of a prospect, and it just took him some time. But, in this program, where's the next Heston Kjerstad, right? Where's the next Andrew Benintendi? Those guys haven't been coming along as often as they have in the past. And they've had some misses in recruiting, some highly regarded guys that kind of went 1 year and out on the team. So that's one. And then 2 is, are you going to go big game hunting in the portal? Arkansas was the program for a long time, even before the transfer portal blew up the way it has the last couple of years, that was doing a very good job of finding transfers that fit perfectly with what they needed. I think of Trevor Ezell a few years ago, right? Was a perfect piece for that team. The catcher from Kent State, whose name escapes me at this moment, Turner, is that right? Perfect example. But now that they're still kind of recruiting those guys in the portal, and they've had some success there, but they're not in the game, or at least they're not getting. Maybe they're in the game for them and they just don't get them. But they're not getting the Braden Montgomerys, the Tommy Whites, the Billy Amicks, the Colby Sheltons, that class of transfers. And is that a choice? Is that because your NIL is not where those are? Obviously, we don't know that, because the NIL business is very opaque, and we just don't know what's happening behind those closed doors. One of the reasons why I'd like some, not guidelines, because I don't want restrictions on it, but just some visibility. I think it'd be good for the players to kind of know what their market is. And it would help coaches too, but I'm more concerned about, like, I just worry about players being sold a bill of goods and then not having them come through. So for Arkansas, like, can you get into those competitions for some of those high-end portal guys? And if you're not, you have to produce the homegrown guys, but that doesn't happen overnight, right? But Arkansas recruits a lot of highly regarded guys. They just got to hit on more of them. So I do think there's got to be just a reevaluation of what they're doing on the position player side, because if the pitching staff was good enough. Okay, Hagen Smith got hit by K-State in a regional, but that can happen to anybody, I guess, except Paul Skeens. But the pitching staff was deep. Like, this was the pitching staff they'd been hoping to build, right? And okay, you had some injuries along the way, but everyone has a couple pitching injuries. They were the deepest pitching staff we'd seen this year. And as uncertain as things got down the stretch with Mason Molina and Brady Tigert, like, you'd still take those guys over most anybody else in the country in terms of what they have on the mound. There are just a small handful of others you feel as good about. And it just wasn't enough, because the offense just never came around. It never got to be above, there were times where it felt like an average offense, good enough. But more often than not, that it felt below average. And, there were things that happened. Kendall Diggs, a shoulder injury, sure. But still, even with Kendall Diggs at full health, fully operational, like, it still would have been kind of an average offense. So that, to me, for Arkansas is the key. They don't need to blow up the program. Like, this is not that, right? They're too consistent in the regular season for that to be the case. But this used to be a team that their offenses were just, you could set their watch to, this is going to be an effective offense. They're going to have some dudes. And it just hasn't, it's been trending the wrong way. I'll put a fine point on it there. So that is going to have to change for them to bounce back. They'll be back next year. I think they'll be good, probably very good, maybe great. But how much different their offense is, I think, is going to be the key. And that's not me breaking any news. I think we all know that, but I think it's more than just like, let's go out and get some more hitters. It's like, no, they need to take a full look at this and decide, like, how are we building a lineup in terms of, are we taking high school guys? Are we going to take swings on big potential guys? Are we going to try to find the next Dylan Cruz or Jace Laviolette or Gavin Grahovic? Or are we going to go all in on, let's get the next Braden Montgomery in the portal? Either way, something's got to change there. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of Weekend Waypoints, production of SEC Extra at d1baseball.com, brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Visit activewealth.com, click schedule a consultation to get a free 401k review. That's a $1,500 value at no cost to you. Enjoy the baseball today. We're going to punch one more ticket to Omaha guaranteed. We might punch several others. That is going to do it for this weekend's series of Weekend Waypoints, but Mark and I will be back sometime around midweek to take a look back at Supers, look ahead at Omaha, and we'll get you caught up on everything that happened around the SEC then. I will talk to you then. Take care, everyone.